Hello, and welcome to Introduction to Psychology. In this session, we will begin our exploration of consciousness. The session will follow the outline above, beginning with the question, what is consciousness? In the realm of psychology, consciousness refers to awareness. That is, consciousness is being aware of the external environment, the things around you, and/or internal events, your own thoughts and feelings. It is the live stream of unified sensations, thoughts, and feelings that we experience. For example, while awake, we are conscious of a moving image accompanied by sounds, smells, bodily sensations, emotions, and thoughts, all in real time. Consider the question, do animals, insects, plants, or computers experience consciousness? Do they have a live stream of experience? This question can be addressed by modern theories of consciousness. According to integrated information theory, consciousness arises from the combination of neural impulses. In the terminology of the theory, integrated means merged, and information means knowledge acquired. A neuron can exist in two states, firing or not firing. If it exists in one state, then this provides the information that the other state does not exist. A combination of two neurons can exist in four states. If it exists in one state, then it provides the information that the other three states do not exist. A combination of three neurons can exist in 8 states. If it is in one state, then it provides the information that the other 7 states do not exist. The more combined inputs to a network, the greater the amount of information provided. And the more connections within a network, the more this information gets shared. Integrated information theory uses mathematics to quantify the amount of information shared into a single value, known as the phi value. According to the theory, the greater the phi value, the higher the level of consciousness. The human brain consists of billions of neurons with trillions of synapses and can exist in quadrillions of states. If it exists in one state, then it rules out the possibility of quadrillions of other states. Thus, the human brain produces and shares a huge amount of information. Due to this highly intricate system, humans experience high levels of consciousness. Animal brains are quite complex and share quite a lot of information. Evidence shows that some animals experience consciousness. Insect brains are quite simple and share small amounts of information. We do not know whether insects experience consciousness. Plants and computers don't have brains at all, but they do have systems that share information. So according to the theory, they too could have some degree of consciousness. According to integrated information theory, the quality of our consciousness is determined by the efficacy of separate regions of the brain. For example, someone with an impaired visual cortex might experience consciousness in black and white, or someone with an impaired auditory cortex might experience consciousness without sound. According to the theory, the reticular formation acts as an on-off switch for consciousness. For example, the reticular formation disconnects many brain regions while we are asleep, thus lowering our levels of consciousness. Similarly, damage to or pressure on the reticular formation disconnects many brain regions, leading to coma. Support for integrated information theory comes from the fact that high levels of consciousness are associated with widespread activity within and between multiple areas of the cerebral cortex. A similar theory to integrated information theory is global workspace theory. According to global workspace dynamics, consciousness emerges when sensory information, thoughts and emotions are combined by frontal and parietal association cortices. That is, when we pay attention, the output of many separate brain regions are mixed together into a unified whole, with the mixing taking place on the outermost surface of the frontal and parietal lobes. It is this mixing that is believed to lead to our consolidated real-time experience. Support for this theory comes from the fact that there is a lack of frontal and parietal brain activity in unconscious states, such as the anesthetic state, coma, vegetative state, and sleep. The second question to be addressed in this session is, what are the states of consciousness? States of consciousness are the separate varieties of awareness that it is possible to experience. In some states, we have very little awareness of internal events or the external environment. In some states, we have moderate awareness of these things. And in some states, we have high awareness of these things. We will look at several states of consciousness, examining them in order of awareness. We will begin with the comatose state. The comatose state is a state of minimal consciousness in which the person appears to be asleep, their eyes are closed, but is unresponsive and unarousable. Coma can be caused by many things, including head trauma. Swelling of the brain puts pressure on the area of the brainstem responsible for arousal. Lack of oxygen, deprivation kills brain cells. And intoxication, drugs, alcohol, and toxins disrupt neural functioning. Patients in a coma show minimal cerebral activity and impaired brainstem activity. Coma typically lasts 2 to 4 weeks, and most sufferers recover. In medical settings, brain damage patients' levels of awareness are assessed using the Glasgow Coma Scale. Patients are assessed on their responsiveness to pain and instruction in 3 ways. Motor response is measured by watching patients' arm movements after being pricked by a pin or after being asked to move their arm. Responses are scored from 1, no response, to 6, obeys command. Verbal response is measured by listening to patients' replies to questions. Responses are scored from 1, no response, to 6, a fully comprehensible response. Eye-opening response is measured by watching a patient's eyes while they lie in bed, after being picked by a pin, and after being spoken to. Responses are scored from 1, no response, to 4, opens eyes unprompted. A patient scoring 1, 1, 1 on the 3 measures would be classified as being in a comatose state. A patient scoring 6, 5, 4 would be classified as being fully recovered. Next, we will look at the vegetative state. The vegetative state is a state of minimal consciousness in which the person appears to be awake, their eyes open periodically, and there may be some yawning and grunting. But the person is physically unresponsive. People in the vegetative state do not respond physically to any stimuli. They do not move their arms in response to pain or instruction. They do not make any noise in response to pain or instruction, and they do not move their eyes in response to pain or instruction. However, Despite being physically unresponsive, some individuals in a vegetative state can be mentally responsive to instruction. Owen and colleagues instructed vegetative patients and healthy individuals to imagine walking around their homes. They found that some vegetative patients' brains responded in exactly the same way as healthy individuals, suggesting that they were indeed imagining walking around their homes when asked to do so. Patients in a vegetative state show minimal cerebral activity, but intact brainstem activity. 40% of patients will transition to a minimal conscious state. This is clear but minimal or inconsistent signs of awareness. 40% of patients then recover within 12 weeks. Recovery after 12 weeks is rare. Life expectancy for patients in a persistent vegetative state is about 2 years. It should be noted that locked-in syndrome is different to vegetative state. Locked-in syndrome is when a patient is fully aware, but they can only move their eyes. The next state of consciousness that we will look at is sleep. Sleep is a naturally occurring state of mind and body in which experience of the outside world is largely turned off and movement is limited. Sleep is controlled by 2 factors. The first is sleep pressure. The longer we stay awake, the more tired we feel. This is thought to be due to adenosine levels. While awake, neurons in the reticular formation release adenosine, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. The reticular formation regulates arousal. So the longer we are awake, the longer neurons are releasing adenosine. This makes the reticular formation less and less active, so we feel more and more sleepy. When asleep, neurons stop releasing adenosine, so the levels of adenosine slowly drop. It takes about 1 hour of sleep to clear 2 hours worth of adenosine production. So if we are awake for 16 hours and sleep well for 8 hours, then we wake up feeling completely refreshed. Sleep is also controlled by circadian rhythm. Sleep is one of many circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms are biological processes that naturally follow a daily cycle. We all naturally fall asleep on a daily basis. Other circadian rhythms include alertness. Young people's alertness tends to increase as the day goes on, while older people's alertness tends to decrease as the day goes on. Body temperature. If a person sleeps at night, then body temperature is at its lowest around 4 a.m. and it is at its highest at 4 p.m. And hormone production. Testosterone levels peak at 8 a.m. and trough at 8 p.m. while growth hormone is produced in deep sleep. The human body clock is controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus. It is this part of the brain that decides when it's day and night. The body clock naturally follows a 24.18-hour cycle. However, the suprachiasmatic nucleus adjusts this to 24 hours based on Zeitgebers. Zeitgebers are external indicators of the time of day. The primary Zeitgeber is light, low light levels indicating that it is nighttime. Other Zeitgebers include clocks and watches. Regular schedules, such as meal times and work times, can also act as Zeitgebers. Some people's body clocks are influenced by learning regular schedules. However, some people's body clocks are not. Hence, many blind people who cannot detect light and aren't influenced by learning set times have circadian rhythms that are not synchronized to the outside world. It should be noted that humans have a third type of photoreceptor in addition to rods and cones. These photoreceptors are called photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells don't contribute to vision, but they do detect light and they do influence the sleep-wake circadian rhythm. Blind people who have functioning photosensitive retinal ganglion cells don't have disrupted sleep-wake rhythms. Requirements for sleep decrease with age. Newborn infants require as much as 16 hours of sleep per day for optimal health. Seniors require as little as 6 hours sleep for optimal health. It is also important that people get a good balance between deep and REM sleep. Not getting adequate sleep in the short term leads to fatigue and impaired concentration. Not getting enough sleep in the long term increases susceptibility to illness as the immune system becomes weakened. Sleep serves many functions. While we sleep, daily damage to brain neurons is repaired, new connections between neurons are made, growth hormone is produced, and information is processed unconsciously. That is, our brains think about things as we sleep, so we often wake up with solutions to problems. The diagram shown outlines the typical sleep pattern for regular people. Typically, people go from being awake to being drowsy and then sink deeper and deeper into sleep. They then experience an episode of REM sleep before dipping back down into deeper sleep. This pattern of oscillating between REM sleep and deep sleep happens throughout the night, approximately every 90 minutes. In the early hours of sleep, people spend a lot of time in deep sleep and a little amount of time in REM sleep. In the later hours of sleep, people spend less time in deep sleep and more time in REM sleep. We will now look at each of these various stages of sleep in a little more detail. Stage 1 of sleep is very light sleep. Brain activity slows down, showing theta wave activity. That is, neurons firing at a moderate amplitude and a moderate frequency of 4 to 8 Hertz. The person feels deeply relaxed, their muscle tone is moderate, allowing for a modest amount of bodily movement, and they may experience hypnagogic jerks. Hypnagogic jerks, also known as hypnic jerks or sleep starts, are involuntary muscle twitches which can wake people up. One potential explanation for such sleep starts is that the brain misinterprets the sensation of muscle relaxation as falling. So the brain jerks the person awake in order that they can catch themselves from falling. Stage 2 sleep is light sleep. Brain activity is generally still theta wave activity, but small periods of intense activity, known as K complexes and sleep spindles, may interrupt the pattern. K complexes are reactions to external noises. Sleep spindles occur directly after K complexes as the brain works to stay asleep. Sleep spindles are also involved in memory consolidation. In stage 2 sleep, breathing becomes more regular, sensitivity to external stimuli is reduced, and muscle tone remains moderate, allowing for a modest amount of movement. Stage 3 and 4 sleep is deep sleep. Brain activity is very slow, showing delta wave activity. That is, neurons firing at a high amplitude but a very low frequency of 0.5 to 3.5 hertz. That is, millions of neurons over the entire brain, all firing at about 1 pulse per second. In stage 3 and 4 sleep, sensitivity to the outside world is very low. It is almost impossible to wake someone from a deep sleep, and being roused from a deep slumber causes disorientation and confusion. Muscle tone is very low, allowing for only a small amount of movement. And it is during deep sleep that growth hormone is released. Note, if people oversleep, they often wake up feeling groggy. This is because they are not waking up out of REM sleep when the brain is active. If they oversleep, they have drifted back into non-REM sleep when the brain is less active. So if they wake up feeling sluggish. Every 90 minutes or so, people will come out of deep sleep and experience REM sleep. REM sleep is rapid eye movement sleep. During this stage of sleep, people's eyes dart around behind their eyelids. During REM sleep, the body is completely paralyzed. However, heart rate and respiration increases. REM sleep used to be called paradoxical sleep. The paradox being that the body is completely inactive, but the brain is very active. During REM sleep, the brain shows alpha wave activity. That is, neurons firing at a low amplitude and a high frequency of 8 to 12 hertz. This is the same pattern that the brain exhibits when a person is awake and relaxed. It is during REM sleep that memory is consolidated. Permanent memory traces are created by making new connections between neurons. While sleeping, people sometimes have dreams. Dreams are images, thoughts, and feelings experienced during sleep. They can occur in both REM and non-REM stages. Dreams occurring during the REM stage tend to be very vivid and movie-like in quality. Dreams occurring in non-REM stages tend to be very mundane, consisting of bland shapes and forms. Frightening dreams are known as nightmares. Lucid dreaming is being aware that you are dreaming and possibly being able to control the direction of those dreams. About 50% of people will lucid dream at least once. The ability can actually be taught. We have seen that the typical sleep pattern is for people to sleep once a day for roughly 6 to 8 hours and to oscillate between REM and non-REM stages. Unfortunately, some people do not experience this typical pattern. Some people suffer from sleep-wake disorders. They suffer from disruptions to the typical sleep pattern. There are many sleep-wake disorders. Insomnia is a predominant complaint of dissatisfaction with sleep quantity or sleep quality. That is, it is not getting enough sleep or not getting a restful sleep. Insomnia is difficulty initiating and/or maintaining sleep. Insomnia is very common. It's estimated that 30% of adults suffer from long-term insomnia, and almost everyone experiences isolated episodes of insomnia from time to time. It tends to be triggered by anxiety or excitement. That is, when people are worried about something or really looking forward to something, then it is difficult for the brain to stop thinking about it. Thus, the person experiences intrusive thoughts and feelings throughout the night. Narcolepsy is a sleep-wake disorder characterized by recurrent lapses into sleep, accompanied by cataplexy and/or early onset REM sleep. That is, the person will fall asleep uncontrollably throughout the day. The person may also experience transient episodes of muscle weakness while still conscious. This is known as cataplexy. The person might also transition from stage 1 sleep to REM sleep in 15 minutes or less. This is known as early onset REM. Narcoleptic episodes are usually triggered whenever a sufferer experiences any kind of intense emotion, such as excitement, happiness, or fear. As well as being very sleepy during the day, sufferers also have difficulty staying asleep at night. The cause of narcolepsy is not fully understood, but it seems to be linked with hypocretin deficiency. Hypocretin is a neurotransmitter linked with arousal. All sufferers of narcolepsy have low levels of hypocretin. This might be because they have a particular form of the DBQ1 gene, this predisposing them to have low levels, or this might be because brain injury and brain disease has damaged the brain cells responsible for producing the transmitter. Obstructive sleep apnea, hypopnea, is a sleep-wake disorder characterized by temporary disruptions to breathing, causing frequent momentary awakenings. That is, sufferers fall into a light sleep and then start snoring, snorting, or gasping for breath. This causes them to wake up momentarily before drifting back into light sleep. This pattern often repeats throughout the night. Sufferers tend to wake up in the morning feeling exhausted because although they have slept through the night, they have woken up many times and have never gone into a deep sleep or experienced REM sleep. The disorder is caused by the narrowing of the upper respiratory system. When the muscles supporting the soft palate, throat walls, and tongue relax, the windpipe gets obstructed. Apnea is when the windpipe gets completely blocked. Hypopnea is when the windpipe gets partially blocked. Circadian rhythm sleep-wake disorder is a recurrent pattern of misalignment between the sleep-wake circadian rhythm and the physical environment. That is, it is feeling awake at night and sleepy during the day. The condition has many causes. Sometimes people feel awake at night and sleepy during the day due to schedule changes. They might have jet lag after traveling across time zones, or they might start working night shifts. Sometimes young people suffer the condition due to hormonal changes during puberty. Sometimes the condition is caused by depression. And sometimes the condition is caused by a mutation to the PER3 gene on chromosome 13, which regulates the circadian rhythms. A night terror is a partial awakening from deep sleep in a state of extreme fear. Typically, a person will sit bolt upright with their eyes open, look fearful, and often yell. This is accompanied by rapid breathing and rapid heart rate. Sufferers are usually children aged 3 to 12 years. Roughly 5% of this age group experience night terrors. Night terrors are very rare in adults. Episodes last from 1 to 10 minutes, and the usual person has no memory of the event the day after. A final sleep-wake disorder to be examined is REM behavior disorder. REM behavior disorder is the absence of paralysis during REM sleep. Usually, people cannot move during REM sleep. With REM behavior disorder, this paralysis is missing, which results in people acting out their dreams. Actions such as punching, kicking, arm flailing, talking, and shouting are common, and sometimes sufferers get out of bed and roam around. The technical name for sleep talking is somniloquy. The technical name for sleepwalking is somnambulism. REM behavior disorder is caused by the degeneration of, or disruption to, glycine motor neurons in the brainstem. Usually, glycine motor neurons switch off movement during REM sleep. When glycine motor neurons in the brainstem do not work adequately, then this paralysis does not occur. Degeneration of or disruption to these neurons can be due to genetic predisposition, Parkinson's disease, stroke, or taking antidepressants. Note, sleep paralysis is being unable to move just before falling asleep or just after waking up. It can last from several seconds to several minutes and can lead to hypnagogic hallucinations, such as imagining an animal or beast sitting on top of you.